Hi motor railway fans and welcome to Dean Park. I hope you're well and thank you for tuning into the channel. In this video I'll take a closer look at the forthcoming Class 26 from Heljan. Several of you will already be aware that the new Class 26 from Heljan is due by the end of 2024. In fact, as I speak, it's on the high seas on its way to Europe. However, Ben Jones of Heljan reached out to me and asked if I'd like to test a final production sample around Dean Park, and of course I politely accepted. Ben's highly regarded within the industry and since joining Heljan has been instrumental in updating some of their current range to modern standards. The Class 26 Type 2s were of a Bobo 4-axle arrangement and were mainstays of operations up in Scotland, being nicknamed McRats as they could be seen almost anywhere north of the border until the late 1980s. 47 of this class were manufactured by the Birmingham Railway Carriage and Wagon Company between 1958 and 59. The class first coming north in significant numbers when in 1959 27 of the 26 subclass 1 locos were allocated to the Scottish region. By the mid-60s it was decided that all remaining 26 be transferred to Scotland, and by the mid-1970s all of the surviving 46 locos were divided between Haymarket and Inverness depots, and these could be seen on passenger traffic, mixed freight and even merry-go-round coal traffic to the newly opened Cockenzie Power Station in East Lothian. Limited to a maximum speed of 80 miles an hour and with good route availability, they really could operate anywhere, from West Highland and Far North lines to the Central Belt and into Fife. So this makes them very much of interest to me at Dean Park with my 1980s ScotRail theme. During their long careers north of the border, they were worked hard and were pretty much life expired by the time sprinterisation of passenger traffic became the norm in the late 80s and into the 1990s. The last example soldiered on to 1993, bringing to an end almost 34 years of service in Scotland. 13 examples made it into preservation, a pretty impressive number for a total of just 47 built. Heljan or Heljan, depending on how you prefer your steak, have a long association with the Class 26 and 27 models. The new 26 should give a broad range of possibilities in terms of running numbers and liveries for years to come. Heljan's first run of 00 gauge models includes a range of liveries, including BR Green, Classic BR Blue with and without tablet catcher and recessed detailing. These locos are fitted with a selection of indicator discs and twin headlights, which were fitted on examples that worked the far north lines of Scotland. Micro LEDs are being used to capture this variant for the first time. Two versions of this model are being released, one with a light weathered finish with Inverness stag emblems on the body side, with the other representing an earlier version in pristine finish. I've got the Highland Stag version on pre-order. There's also attractive rail freight grey with red sole bar, and there are two versions of this model available. One from the standard range with large Eastfield Terrier emblem, and if weathered models are your thing, Gauge Masters Collection Tatty Rail Freight livery could be one for you, again with Eastfield Terrier but weathered and a smaller version of the doggy. Two locos are painted in green with a white waistband, red buffer beams and grey roofs. One has a yellow panel on the cab while the other is fashioned with a full yellow end. Both carry the earlier D prefix and have their cab door windows still in place. It's an impressive first run of the new model, which is topped off with a Dutch liveried 26, number 26026, which is the model that's been provided for review. I've got options on purchasing this model from my local Heljan stockist, Scooney Hobbies in Kirkcaldy, and if all goes well then who knows, this model might be joining the fleet. It might be on the very cusp of the era that I model, but when's that ever stopped me buying a new loco in the past? Before I delve into casting a critical eye over this new model, I've already got a couple of Heljan previous Class 26s, one dating back to 2012, when Dean Park was mainly bare baseboards and a head full of ideas. So if you want to take a step back in time to the very first upload, I'll put that link at the end of this video. I've still got the Rail Freight and BR Blue 26, which was sound fitted by Howes. It's an impressive runner and still looks the part, so I'll be drawing on my current collection to use as a comparison for this new model. But ultimately the question will be, has this new version moved the game on significantly since the first model? Well, stay tuned to find out as I put the new Heljan Class 26 under close inspection. The Type 2 under review is a final production example, so what you see here is what you're going to get when they hit the shelves in December. A massive thanks to Ben for his support of the channel by reaching out to me with this Dutch livery 26. With other exciting models due out from Heljan, it's going to be a busy time for the company, and hopefully I'll be able to share some more models with you here in future videos. The new model, just like the previous one, captures the face of the Class 26 very nicely indeed. New and more refined lamp irons are neatly fitted, and the definition of the intricate mouldings around the light lenses is tidy. Separately fitted grab rails are fitted below the cab windows, which, if I was being critical, stick out a fraction too much, but yeah, they look fine. The cab windows are nicely fitted and appear thinner and more refined on this new model. There is no prismy effect, and you get a good view of the cab interior. This model depicts the later refurbished 26s with pronounced curved corners on the main cab windows, something that's not easily seen on this black livery, but the details are correct. The windows on the real refurbished locos were held in place by rubber mounting grommets, and all locos retained their original style centre windows even after refurbishment. As you'd expect, there are separately fitted window wipers which nearly touch the glazing, which is a small improvement on the older models. The buffer beam is an area which impresses in terms of detail and pipework, and it would be a relief to some that the detail is already pre-fitted at the factory. However, Heljan persists with fitting it to both ends, meaning that if you want to fit a coupler to one end, which you will in order to pull stock, you have to detach some of these fine pipes. Now these are firmly glued in, so you're either going to have to snip them or snap them off. I'd just like to see these fitted at one end, but that's just my personal preference. So far so good with this model. Let's hope things continue in this vein as I dig deeper. Moving up over the cab roof, we can see some exposed moulded detail showing the air horns. This shows the loco with the cover to the horn grille pod missing, and this is the first time I've seen it on a Class 26 model, and it's a nice touch. At the back of the cab roof, we've got separately fitted later style of NRN radio pod, and just behind that there are some crisply moulded air intakes and blanked over boiler exhaust. Moving along, there's a fine and much improved mesh grille with red fan blades below. These aren't powered but look the part through the fine mesh. And whilst on this area, here's a question. Why are most fans painted red? We see this on a range of locos from the Class 20, 37, 47 and beyond. Does anyone know why this is the case? Please get in touch in the comments. Along the length of the curved roofline, we've got some really nice cantrail grills, and these are exquisitely modelled and really stand out on the loco, being picked out in black against the grey roof, although this impressive detail was also present on the previous model. The exhaust port is correctly positioned, and there isn't an actual hole in the roof here, so you don't see the internal circuitry when looking at it. And that's a thumbs up for me, as there's nothing worse on a model than a glimpse of wires through a roof grille or an opening. This model, like so many other newly tooled locos from a range of manufacturers, has a detachable roof to access the decoder. Now, if you've watched my video reviews in the past, you'll know that I'm not a fan of this detail. It's often poorly fitted with gaps or even painted in a different shade to the rest of the loco. But it seems to be the fashion these days of getting into the decoder, so who am I to criticise? This new model is upgraded to a 21-pin decoder socket, allowing for an increase in lighting functions over the older 8-pin models. The panel fitted to this model is not magnetically held in place, but uses a sort of socket and friction fit clip design. Getting it off isn't easy, and the fit isn't as secure as I'd like on a new model. If removal of the body is simple enough, I might be tempted to fix this roof panel in place with a spot of glue, or if I don't want it permanently fixed, I could secure it from the inside with a tiny blob of black tack. I wouldn't recommend trying to remove this panel with a screwdriver or anything that might damage the paintwork. I'd instead use a small shim of plasticard, a wooden cocktail stick, or in this case, a plectrum from a guitar. The position of the panel is cleverly done, however, and it coincides with the panel lines on this loco. Body removal is really easy. The body is just held onto the chassis with 4 clips, and when you take the body off, there are no wires attached to the body itself, so it's nice and clean. You can see there a nice compact circuit board and space at the left hand end there for two factory fitted Sugar Cube speakers. Inside the cab we see some key upgrades to this model. The cab now boasts a lower profile floor, seating and printed details. This extends to the bulkhead where detail can be seen through the fine glazing. In a first for a Heljan Class 26 we now have cab lighting, which can be operated independently in DCC mode. This is one area that really stands out from the previous model. There is no driver fitted, so if that's important to you, the likes of Model U may be your next port of call. The lighting has been upgraded throughout this model with independently working marker, tail lights, cab lights when operating on DCC. Thanks to the upgrade of the 21-pin interface, this makes the model a lot more authentic to operate, and you can now turn off the red lights when the loco is coupled to some rolling stock. You can also have the lighting correctly set to depict the loco whilst on shed, so in this respect it brings the new model bang up to date. Lighting has also been upgraded to LEDs, so gone are the bulbs of old. Those of you who model analog and not DCC are not excluded from using the full suite of the new lighting features, as when you take the roof panel off there are small switches so you can customise your lighting to suit. Reattaching the roof panel is pretty simple, just slide it in and then push down. If it's still got a little bit of spring in it, as it is here, I just got around that by pushing it from the number 2 to the number 1 end to engage the clip that little bit better. Looking along the length of the body, Heljan have done a good job here, with the windows being correctly proportioned and neatly glazed. And we've even got some engine room detail which could be seen through the windows. The side grills are new from the previous model, with a finer mesh grille fitted, with more detail and depth being visible behind this. The cab sides are adorned with silver BR arrows and the numbering is neatly applied, as are the white grab rails. The side window does appear a little bit smaller than on the previous model, but this is just an illusion created by the silver window rims. The 26s had their cab door windows plated over, and this is correctly modelled on this example. Looking at the underframe, I can see Heljan have given this area a mild upgrade, but not so much that you can instantly tell. There's some fine pipework around the bogies and around the air cylinders, which in turn are mounted in a cradle. All the details in the fuel tank and battery boxes are neatly picked out. The coil springs on the bogies, which were a feature of the 26 Subclass 1 locos, look more defined, along with the correct rectangular cab steps, which are correctly positioned under the cab doors. Looking at this area, the bogie appears to have been treated to a refresh, but this isn't a criticism, as I always thought the bogies on the previous model were very good. There's some more separately fitted cabling and pipework on the bogies themselves, which do give it a more realistic look, which is something you'd expect from a new model in 2024. The bogies turn freely and are securely attached to the model, which allows a sure-footed operation on the track, which you'll see for yourself when I test it around the layout. Wheels on this new model are nicely blackened and are the correct diameter for this class of loco. I personally think some of the detail on these bogies will really start to pop if decent weathering was applied. A Dutch departmental liveried 26 isn't the first colour scheme that springs to mind when thinking of the Class 26s, but 14 locos did get this simple and attractive paint scheme in the early 90s. This particular loco gained its Dutch colour scheme at the end of 1990, becoming the first to do so, and it can be seen working freight and passenger services around Fife to Dundee, Inverness and beyond. And I've also evidence of it stationed at Thornton Yard, which is not far from me. This loco was withdrawn in 1992 and cut up at MC Metals of Glasgow a year later. Heljan have succeeded in neatly applying this livery with good edges between the colours. The grey looks spot on in terms of the shade, and the yellow upper band has a pleasant rich hue to it, and using my Class 26 book as a reference of this very locomotive, the yellow does look accurate. Okay, it's now time to test this new Class 26 around Dean Park. I'll run it over a series of track layouts at different speeds just to test its track handling abilities. I'll not be coupling any stock up to this particular loco as I've not got any couplers fitted to it, and I don't want to start removing some of the pipework of this production sample. I'll then report back on my findings and give it an overall rating. Well, that was good fun, and the Class 26 performed flawlessly straight from the off. As I'd expect, Heljan motors run smooth and silent. I fitted my own 21-pin Zemo decoder in this to operate it around the layout, and it performed well with a smooth acceleration and deceleration within this loco. It's only when I got it on the layout and saw it from normal viewing angles that I really started to appreciate a lot of the small upgrades that are on this new model. Yes, some of the detail is finer. I certainly think some of the moulding is crisper than on the previous model, and we've obviously got the new lighting features with independent head and tail lights and the cab light as well. It certainly elevates it above the previous model, and I'll be adding a few to my collection. Okay, here are my ratings for the new model. Appearance 90%, lots of little upgrades from the previous model, and some nice new touches as well. Performance, really good, straight from the off, 95%, typical Heljan, smooth and silent operation. Fit and finish, 85%, and what punctured this just slightly was the loose fitting panel on the roof that allows you access to the decoder. Packaging, usual high standards from Heljan, held the model in place, nice bit of foam in the box, and the box was blue. Details and features, yep, this scores well, lots of little additions to the model, separately fitted and moulded, and as I said earlier, the mouldings are a little bit crisper than on the previous model, which you'd expect from a model in 2024. Value for money sits at around 8 out of 10. You're looking at around £209 I think for a recommended retail value, so you'll pick one up for around £180 at most retailers, and in today's money that's pretty good. Overall score therefore is 87%, and it's a clever evolution of the original model, and it's well worth a look, and on that basis I'd recommend it. So there you have it, my initial take on the forthcoming Class 26 model, which should arrive in time to find its way into some Christmas stockings. Before I go, I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and if you'd like to show your support for the channel by liking this video, adding some comments, or indeed subscribing, I'd be very grateful. Your continued support makes producing these videos worthwhile, so yeah, it all helps. I'll be back later in November with a layout update and also my Christmas competition, so stay tuned for those uploads. In the meantime, thanks for watching, enjoy your modelling, and cheers for now.